So, welcome to another episode of Football Unscripted, where we talk all things football. I thought a good place to start might be formal coaching qualifications against real-world experience.
Ooh, good one to start with. What's your thoughts?
I personally think real-world experience is crucial. And I know that we're in a kind of time at the moment where everybody seems to be certificate hunting, I call it. Obviously, I'm in coach education, but
I was going to say it must be tough for you.
It is. There's so many people that will come through the courses, will get their qualification, and they want to jump onto the next one. Years ago, it used to get an action plan from the tutor. The tutor might suggest that you go and work at that level for 6 months, a year to gain real world experience before you think about the next qualification. But it's just now where people, over the last few years, people are just one certificate after the next certificate after the next certificate after the next. They want to get to the A licence as fast as possible. They want to try and get the pro licence as quickly as possible. But they don't have any of that real world experience in between. And I think that for me was my own personal crucial learning journey in between any certificate that I did. Don't get me wrong, I did the old level 2, I did the UEFA B, and they were fairly close together, but that's probably because I failed the level 2 originally, and then I'd already applied for UEFA B because I was confident I was going to pass it. Now I went and passed it, and I jumped on the UEFA B and I passed that as well. But what I did do in between that, and especially when I went from my B licence to my A licence, I took the time. I took the time and became what I like to call a student of the game in terms of coaching. I went and learned. I went and tried at different levels. I worked at under 7s. My son was playing for an under 7s team, and I took their team and I did coaching at that level. I worked in schools. I worked at a semi-professional club. I worked at I worked in academies. I worked in the community. I did all levels possible to learn about the game and then learn about coaching, and that's now why I can link everything I do in coach education back to my own experiences. Whereas I just think that people now are so quick to want to get a certificate, they're missing out on that actual journey. And they'll sit there and they want to be. I want to be an academy manager. I want to be an academy coach. I want to be a first team manager. I want to manage in the Premier League. I'm all for ambition. And I go. My question to people is, how are you going to get there? Because if even at A licence I go, if I've got my A licence and all my experience against somebody that's gone through the level 2, or sorry, the UFC as it is now, but the level 2, the UEFA B and the A licence within about 3 or 4 years, and it took me 10 years to get that with all the experience and everything I've got, who would you choose? I would like to think they choose me with all that experience.
I personally think we're living in a bit of a weird time where, I'll be honest with you, and look, we run these coaching courses ourselves. We've just back from Bahrain, and we've run a level 1, but
we designed that. We designed that to give that real world experience to go.
And I think the education we gave the group after that level 1, I don't think that input now. So I see people, once again, might sound contentious, but I think now it's a hard sell now. It's just a money making machine, and I think there's a lot of coaches out there that have got the certificate, and it's very then easy to show it. Look, I mean, you've earned it, so I understand that. But my thing is that I still think there's a lot of coaches out there with a certificate that don't really understand the level of coach that they are. Sounds weird. I mean, I think you're right. I was like you, Chris. I went through the same scenario, but I'll be honest with you, as much as the experience we've got as players, so we see players now that have played 200 Premier League games, and let's be honest, these are fast tracked through the badges. Now I think being a player, and I'm looking at it from both sides now, being a very, very good player doesn't make you a very, very good coach. We've both seen
it makes you knowledgeable about the game and understand the game.
But coaching is teaching, and I some of the best coaches I've worked with have been teacher background, to be honest, so they can articulate their knowledge better and get that across to the students, the players, in a better way where learning is taking place and there is a process. My whole thing is that the certificates now, I think they're giving them away. We laugh and joke about it. I know people do. But I think you can get your A license now with 10 boxes of Kellogg's cornflakes. And it sounds funny. I know I had to work really hard for mine. You had to work really hard for yours, and I just think now it's a money-making scheme to get as many people. And I think it cheapens the award really. I see people on, the pro license, and I go, why not go and get yourself the best education? I think is going into work at a club and developing there. I'll give you an example. One of my first times in as a coach, I was at Eastwood under Brian Chambers. I was running the academy. I was assistant manager of the football club, still playing a little bit, but on a Tuesday night, and this is going to make a few people laugh. Brian would never attend a training session, so he'd leave me there. I would turn up at the ground at say 6 o'clock. The players were in for 7. I would look for equipment. There would probably be 1 pole, 2 balls, 3 bibs, 4 cones, and we had 25 players coming in to train. Now, obviously, as much as you get on the phone and say, "Gaffer, where's the equipment?" Brian was always saying it's all under the stand. It was under the stand. I said, well, there's nothing here. So that there's 20 players coming in. You need to develop. As much as you would plan your session, you need to think on your feet and plan a session that's going to get as much out of those players in that 2-hour period as you can. And as much as I've done the badges, and I respect the badges I've done, I've worked very, very hard at them. People, some of the people that were the coach ed game at that time. You speak about Dennis Mortimer, Jeff Pike,
good football people.
I think there's some unbelievable guys that I think their education was fantastic. As much as that was really good at showing me certain points of the coaching.
I think that obviously I deliver qualifications a lot with my job, and they're good. They're good in the sense of they do what they're supposed to do. In terms of a qualification will give you structure, it'll give you different ways of thinking, it'll give you ideas about planning and things like that. It doesn't teach you real world things. It doesn't teach you behaviour issues when you're dealing with 7-year-olds.
Mistakes.
And it doesn't, they make mistakes and kids are crying on the sideline because they give the ball away, or this parent shouting from the sideline. It doesn't give you all of that, but it gives you structure. So, I've heard there was a manager in the conference was moaning about when they would look like they were going to get promoted, and I'm not doing my badges, and you can find me every week, I'm not doing my badges.
It was a boy down south, wasn't it? Yeah, that owns
and look, I understand what you're saying. Badges don't, and they're not, let's be honest, you don't get a badge, you get a certificate, but they don't make you a good coach. You could be the best coach in the world without a certificate. You could be the most experienced, the most knowledgeable coach in the world without a certificate. The certificate is an industry standard. So if you want a job, you've got to have a certificate. This is why I was laughing at him when he was saying it. Was like, well, you're not going to have a job, mate. You ain't going to work in the football league without it. So you have to do it. Whether you like it or not, tough. But it's industry standard. People go for jobs, you need the certificate. So I understand why people want to go from certificate to certificate to certificate. But I've seen a lot of people do that, and I've also seen a lot of people get found out quite quickly when they're going through the levels. Because when they get to, all of a sudden they're doing the foundation phase and they're working with an under 8s, great, it's a lot of behaviour stuff there, and it's a lot of fun games. Even in academy, there is coaching in there, but you're still working with kids at the end of the day. But all of a sudden you're up in the youth development phase. Or, if you're lucky enough, you end up in the PDP, your professional development phase, and you've got 20-year-olds up there that want to be in the first team. And you go,
and sometimes question you.
Now I'm going to get found out, because it's not about big picture stuff. It's about small, minute detail that's going to make that player 1% better. And I think that's where people are missing. It's about that, I've planned for 18, but there's been an accident on the motorway and only 9 have turned up. What do I do? 7 turned up, and it's not just I'll play a floater. Well, great, you're still going to have 6v. You're not even going to have 6v6. You got 5v4 or 4v4 and a floater. But what's the floater for? Who'd you put on the floater? Oh, I'll put a goalkeeper in because I've only got one goalkeeper. Why the hell would you put a goalkeeper as a floater?
Yeah.
And I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but these are the things I see all the time. Because they don't have the real world experience to adapt on the spot.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. At Eastwood, it was
have to
real
adapt.
world.
Yeah.
You're dealing with first team players, and that's obviously A licence dealing with 11 versus 11. Sort of in that scenario. I personally think that, like it used to be, where you take your whatever level you're at, and then you need to go away and you need to become a better coach with what you've just learned before you then apply for. It's like people go through the badges now, and we're in a very competitive world where someone goes, I need to be an A licence, so boom, 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 boom. But I think just then the quality of what you're, there'll be one or two people that go, I'm a really good coach. I think there's a lot coming through the system now that get lost in that process of getting badge.
I think there needs to be something in between the qualifications, the certificates. So you come off a level 1, you have to do something more on the grass before you can go on your UEFA C, as it is now. You come off the UEFA C, there should be a little process. When I did my A licence, I had to do a prep course first. It was a 3-day prep course, and I couldn't go on my A licence unless I did the prep course, because the prep course was lots of information about the A licence, lots of coaching from the tutors about the A licence. This is what it looks like, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then we all had to deliver a session, one session within those 3 days, and we got assessed to B licence level. No, sorry, we had to do a B licence session, we got assessed to A licence level.
Yeah.
So straight away you go there, you're going to do a 20-minute session over those 3 days, and they assess you to the A licence criteria, and they tell you where you're at. And I know that so many people on that prep course that I went on didn't apply for their A licence because they realised that the standard was way beyond where they were at. I was quite fortunate because I was working at a decent level at the time, and I was buzzing for it. I was like, I'm all over this, get me in. I couldn't wait to do it. But I know, and a good friend of mine was on it as well, and she was a great coach, and she went, I can't do this, and never applied. Now, I think she did it years later. I'm not sure, kind of lost touch after I left the job I was working in. But she was a really good coach at the time, and I thought she was good enough, and confidence just drained straight out of her body because she saw the standard of what it was. And I think that should be at UEFA C to UEFA, not from level 1 to level 2, or I2C, Introduction to Coaching Football as they call it now, to level 2 UEFA C. I think it should be B to A, possibly even C to B, because there needs to be something there. I see people come on the B licence at times, and sometimes it's a bit too much for them because of the level that they're working at and how quickly they did or the time in between the course. Like I say, as a tutor, when I used to sign people off on the old level 2, we used to have to write an action plan and go, give them feedback, action plan at the bottom. Don't think about applying for your A licence for at least your UEFA B for at least 6 months.
I think that's a good process.
2 years, a year, depending on where they were at. Because
go and get some experience in it.
Yeah, go and get some experience.
Here's one idea.
Or 9v9.
Would you implement a system where, in that period between your first level 1 and probably your A licence, where the introduction of some sort of teaching qualification?
Depends on the qualification. I'm going to say I'm probably sitting on the fence a little bit there, but I'm thinking.
I think it'd be fantastic. I think some of the best coaches I've worked with have been teachers, and
I think getting how to get that information across.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
If it's a sort of teaching qualification and they are fully qualified teachers, for example. Don't get me wrong. I was.
I just think you basics, kettles, and that now.
GTT, generic tutor training that I did years ago, and I did a very basic teacher qualification. Didn't give me full teacher status.
Yeah.
It gave me assistant teacher, I think it was, or something like that. But what it allowed me to stand in front of people and teach. And
you just got a great point there, because when we was out in Bahrain, one of the key things that I noticed was for quite a few of them were new to coaching, but some of them were very, very uncomfortable standing up in front of the group. And now, the main thing about being a coach is being comfortable in your own,
all eyes on you,
and telling people, giving people instruction. Now, I honestly believe this is that if even it's just the basic teaching requirements, I'm not talking you've got to go QTS, but just having a teacher qualification, I think would benefit males, females, and the younger generation, just to give them that little bit of confidence to get across what they want to the group in a confident manner, become more confident in front of the group. That's just my my opinion.
I actually think about it. I totally agree, because I think back to when I did my teacher training, and even in that teacher training, 20, 25 people in the room, we had to do what was called a micro teach.
Yeah.
So it was only 5-10 minutes or so of any topic that we were comfortable with. Yeah. So somebody did teach the class how to tie shoelaces.
Yeah.
The teacher herself, she taught how to do what she got people in front of her. So you explain to me how to make a cup of tea, which was the funniest thing I've ever seen, by the way. And I'm going to explain it just because it's funny. She had a kettle, she had a cup, she had all the stuff, the tea bags and everything, and she got somebody up at the front and to make a point says, teach me how to make a cup of tea. I've never made a cup of tea before, teach me how to make a cup of tea. He went, put the tea bag in the cup. She put the tea bag in the cup. He went, pour the water in the cup. So she poured the water in the cup, but she didn't stop. So it was overflowing. She had it on a tray, but it's water everywhere. The guy starts panicking now. He's like, no, you got to stop. You got to stop. She said, yeah, but you didn't say.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me to stop. You just said pour water in the cup. So I'm laughing my head off now. He's like, right, okay, you got to empty some, and then the panic starts to set in because it's going wrong. So for something as simple as making a cup of tea, trying to teach somebody and then almost regressing that information backwards.
Those final points on
make it real simple. Pour the water into half a cup. Pour the milk in. Stop. Only this much. Whatever it is. To fine detail. Two level teaspoons of sugar. Whatever it might be. It was the finer detail, not just pour the water in, pour the milk in, and she made a clear point. She just kept going like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was hilarious. I actually taught, because my wife taught me, a little bit of sign language. She was doing sign language at the time. My micro teach was finger spelling. So your vowels are on you. It's like A, E, I, O, U. And then I gave everybody a handout that did all the other letters. So like C, if I'm trying to remember, H, R, I, and then it's something like, I think something like that is S. So they had to learn to finger spell their name using the sheet with all the diagrams on it. And then I took the sheets away, and then they had to practice it. And then I taught them the song. I can't remember how it goes. I think it's something like, hello, my name is, and then you go, Chris. God, I tell you what, it was about 20 years ago, so I'm done bad to remember. And I'm sure people, if they sign, they're going to tell me I'm completely wrong. But at that time, that was how I learned it, because she was doing the basic course. And
I thought the sounds you were saying was that everyone was, and you could tell everyone to do wrong.
Like, get rid of it, give somebody. But yeah, and I taught the whole class how to do that, and he went down really well. But I was buzzing off it. I came off it, like adrenaline through me. I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. I could do this.
It's stressful.
Oh, it's brilliant.
The first time in front of people, it's stressful.
There was a group of women on the table that I was on, and when the teacher went, right, who's going to go first? 3 of them put their head down and went, no, I'm not doing it. And I went, well, why are you here? Honestly, why are you here? You want to be a teacher or a teaching assistant, whatever it is, you're going to have to stand up in front of people. Why are you in this class? I'm not being horrible.
That's that anxiety. That's what I'm saying about when you talk about teachers.
In front of people.
Yeah, you talk about teachers. We're talking about coaches. We're talking about a lot of people that, look, everyone gets anxious, and I just think the more it's something that the more you do, the more accustomed you get to it, and the better you become. And with what you were just saying then, I could relate to everything when you were talking about the cup of tea scenario was fantastic. And some people are watching this probably go, what? You're meant to be talking about football? And I go, but if you can get the finer points out in your session, you will then the process that you'll feed into to your players will become clearer and more precise.
Well, I heard a story about John Terry when he first finished playing. He was still at Chelsea. Or he was coaching at Chelsea, or he was doing something down at Chelsea anyway, and he had the big hoo-ha about, why do I have to take the qualifications? I've got 500 league appearances or whatever he's got. I've got X amount of international appearances. Why have I got to take these qualifications? He wants to be a coach, wants to be a manager, and so on and so forth. At that time, I'm not saying he's still like that now, but at that time. And then somebody told me he delivered a session at Chelsea ladies, and apparently it was absolutely horrendous, because he couldn't get his point across. Because as great a player as he was, he's expecting them to be able to do that. Even at Chelsea ladies standard, he was expecting them to do what he did, without him having to break down the detail of how he does it. He didn't know how he does it. He's got 500 league appearances. He just does it naturally. Drops into position, communicates with players, drags people in, plays a 50-yard crossfield ball with his laces. Not everybody can do it. Somebody told me that years ago when I came out of the league and I started going back down the leagues again. I think I actually went back to Arnold where I started, and Bryn Gunn, Forest Ledge. He said to me, Chris, you've got to wind your neck in. You're moaning at players who have probably never been coached. You've played you've played in the Prem, you've played at a very high level, and it says you're expecting them to make a 10-yard. I'm going, but it's a 10-yard pass. He says, but maybe they can't do a 10-yard pass as good as you can do a 10-yard pass, because they've never been coached. Some of these might just be street ballers. They just play the game and don't think about how they play it. Wind your neck in and stop moaning. Because I got to that stage when you get older, don't you? Somebody don't pass you a bad ball, it's like, oh, good. So,
and that's with what you just said.
I started bringing my coaching into
a lot of experienced pros develop that bad habit of, I know. This is what I'm saying about the teaching. I think teaching grounds you in a way. When you're going on to micro teaching, this will make you laugh. I taught mine on the offside rule and failed miserably. And I'm a centre back. The amount of times I still put my arm on. I just a little bit of a joke there. But no, I just think that's just my opinion. I've mentored on the A licence and stuff like that. And when I talk to the people at FAs and stuff like that, I think this would make the new breed of coaches coming through better, more articulate, and have a better process, and give them a lot more confidence to teach and to get out their session, from just standing up in front of a group to, like you just said, that part was fantastic. If you looked at coaching as in make me a cup of tea, and you look at those finer details, and I know this will probably send people cross-eyed, but I can relate to those finer points when I've been out on the field, and I've been there when I've tried to get something across, and on a Saturday afternoon it's failed, and I've gone, well, I should do this. But people only really take in what you tell them. So I missed out I've gone from A to C to F instead of going to A, B, C, D, E, F.
I think that's the thing with the cup of tea thing, and I took it, as a coach as well. I was a coach at the same time, and I just thought to myself, you know what? It makes a hell of a lot of sense that you don't assume that everybody knows what's in your head.
Yeah.
And I tell people on all my courses now is don't assume that they can see what you see. Don't assume that they know what's in your head. So show them and tell them. Sometimes you have to tell people.
Yeah.
I know we're going down this route. Let's ask lots of questions. And I think questioning. I've got off topic a little bit, but I think questioning and coaching is a little bit. Sometimes it's a cop out. It's not always a cop out if they're the right questions. I think, I know some people that can ask fantastic questions and get 100 responses back by the type of questions, those open-ended questions. But I think sometimes, especially on the courses where people are going, oh, what could you have done differently, which is the worst question I think in coaching. If I always say if people knew, they would have done it. So go and show them and tell them. But I think that's the skill, and I think people will do that when they've got those experiences being out on the grass 3-4 times a week. And you look at it and you go, how many times, I'll go in the classroom and go, how many times have you coached this week? Once. Okay. Are you coaching next week? Have you coached last week? Did you coach there? So that's 4 times in a month. Brilliant. How many times you coach? Oh, I've coached twice this week, so twice a week for that's 8 times. Go, brilliant. How many times you coach? Oh, I coach once. What, in a month? Okay, well, at least you got on the grass. What did you do? Oh, I've not been coaching. Well, you know what I mean? They all those experiences build together. If you're coaching 4 times a week, 3 times a week, once a week, that's 4 sessions a month. Great. 8 sessions a month. 16 sessions a month. All that experience, and games as well.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're starting to see more and more things that you won't see on a coaching course. You won't see in your certificate. Your certificate won't get you there. Your certificate gives you structure. Your certificate gives you ideas and makes you think and challenges your thinking. That's what the qualifications do. That's how I believe the qualifications do as a tutor. I go, I'll challenge your thinking. I want you to, I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to challenge you to think differently, to find a way and a response. How do you coach this player different to this player?
Yeah.
You only know that if you've been on the grass and you've coached somebody with great ability, somebody with, that can't walk backwards without falling over.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're finding different ways to deal with them. And even back in our day, it was like, you could shout at me all day long. I wouldn't take it personal. But then I played with other people that you got to put arm around them because they're just going to sulk. And I go, for me, you shout at me, I'll go, I'll prove you wrong. And I did that even when I was playing pro. You're going to get managers, Chris, you got to get across the near post. I just go, okay, I'll get across the near post. But I'll make sure I do it.
Yeah.
Or if I do it, I'm going to finish. And then I'll just go up and go. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I
think my thing with going back to the original, we was talking about qualifications there, is that you've got to go off and you've got to make mistakes.
Get on the grass and
because that's the only way you grow. That's the only way you grow, by taking a few chances, being brave, making mistakes. And a word that we haven't used tonight, which we used out in Bahrain quite a lot, was reflection.
Reflection, yeah.
It's just reflect on what you've done. Don't beat yourself down. Look at the things you've done well, but look at where you could have. You always can improve, because at our age, we're still making mistakes, and
that's the crucial one. Is you've always got to look at the good stuff. So what went well? The even better ifs. What could you, as a coach, have done to make it better? Don't look at that. Oh, it was raining. If it wasn't raining, you can't control the weather.
Yeah.
What could you have done to make the session better? Or what could you have controlled? What could you have changed? And then if you're going to do the session again, what you're going to do differently? Don't do the same session again, and make sure you do it again. And there's so many people that had a torrid time with a session and then not delivered that session again.
Yeah.
I think that's where you learn the most, when you have a complete, absolute meltdown.
Yeah, I look back on mine, is that growth has always come from me. Growth has always come from failure. It sounds really weird, really, but
it does.
I spent 20 years in the management game, coach, whatever you call it, and when I look back at, I was quite successful, but some of my greatest achievements in my head is when not when you've won 12 on the bounce, 20 on the bounce. It's when you've lost 5 on the bounce, and you then have to do something that's going to change the trajectory of where you're going, because we all know that you've got to keep winning football matches to stay in a head coach's role. Now you might be an under 23s coach, assistant manager and stuff like that. When you look at it, all the fundamentals are all the same. You've got to try and this is my bugbear, you know this. I don't think we're coaching anymore to win football matches. I think contentious again, might be, but I think a lot of people now are coaching to look good, and I sometimes think it's all about the coaches. I listen to interviews after the game, and my bugbear is listen to someone that's just been beat 4-1 and just, it sounds as though they making it sound sexy, and I go, you could probably go be out of a job. Contentious again. The boy in Glasgow Rangers. I don't know him.
Yeah, I mentioned it last week, didn't we?
But yeah, I just go. He did the same thing at Southampton, and I question somebody's morals and ethics. I give him a lot of credit because he sticks by his, by his what he wants to do on the pitch, how he wants to play. But I still maintain that the whole of the coaching process, up to a certain point, You know, when you're dealing with kids, I'm going to be contentious now, really contentious, is that this is a sport, it's a business, but it's a sport, and the whole process of football, when you really do strip it down, is to stop the ball going in one goal and to put it in the other goal. Yeah. And everybody's judged, whether you're dealing with players, you've got to deal with players, and I'll probably go off a tangent here, as you probably know, is that, I'll give you an example now. We are teaching now kids, and I know this is probably going to upset a few people, especially with the kids, but we are teaching even defenders now to be articulate with the ball, but we're not teaching them to defend. The FA's brought in this thing now where you could only head a football so many times, and if you're a manager in the Football League now, and this pressure on you to bring good centre backs through, or good defenders, or even a good centre forward that is in the Mick Harford role or something like that.
Andy Carroll.
Yeah, what you can't. If you can only teach somebody to head a ball so many times in a week, you are personally, in my opinion, setting people up to fail.
I don't understand why they don't use, the old Skegness football that goes all over the place, and not for the heading, for the technique of heading. Because it's a skill. Heading the ball is a skill. Yeah, you see the amount of people that will get the ball in the face, they'll close their eyes, they don't use the neck muscles, they drop into a turtle shell, and the ball just bounces off the top of the head and goes, that hurts.
Yeah.
Well, you go, well, yeah, because you don't know how to head the ball. So what's going to happen, especially in academy football or grassroots football, when the ball comes out of the air? You're going to have that one kid where dad goes, I don't care, I'm going to bash, like my dad probably did. I think he did when I was a kid, and just go and volley the ball up in the air and say, get your head on it. And you do. All right, Dad, no worries. Bosh, yeah. I did it with my son. He's all right. Well, I think he's probably a little bit cross-eyed, but he can head the ball. He's not scared to head the ball. He's not scared to put his head down there, same as me, same as you. And you go, if we're not teaching people the correct technique, somebody's going to get hurt, because there's going to be a ball come out of the sky, and somebody's going to go for it, and somebody's going to get hurt.
The thing is, it's beyond that. When you look at the stats again, you'll probably know the stats better than me. But this last time I saw, I think it was Kenny Dalglish's son had made a stat that 0.01% of kids are coming through to Premiership clubs to play in the first team. Now we are spending millions and millions and millions of pounds on the academy setups now, and we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands probably of coaches that are being put in jobs, and we are just setting these kids up to fail. Now, that's not my opinion now, the stats prove that. So I'll give you an example. I had Ryan Taffazoli. Ryan Taffazoli came to me at Mansfield. He'd come from Southampton, which at the time, Chris, was, as you know, was one of the best academies in the country. The setup there is unbelievable, outstanding. Now, Taffs is 6'3", maybe 6'4", left-footed centre-back, very articulate with the ball, can play, and everything. He came from me for 2 weeks and couldn't head a football. And we was League 2 at the time. So I had to have a sit down with Taffs and say, look, we're not going to take you on in League 2 because a lovely, lovely kid, absolute dream to work with. And it was only his persuasion that he wanted to be a footballer, more than a male model to be fair, because the lad's a good looking lad. That's another story. I worked with him for 2 weeks on basics of heading the ball and being good in both boxes. Now, if you talk to any manager or anyone that's running any team up and down the country, and people say, oh, the game's evolved, Paul. The game hasn't evolved that much where you don't want your defenders to defend high balls into the box and head it 30 yards back.
Tactics and technology's evolved.
Well, we've got now the Premier League. Now they're saying it's been more direct than ever. We've got long throw specialists now.
That's what I mean. It's
you don't want a centre back that can head it 30 yards.
Tactics in technology, it's changed. The game hasn't changed. You still got to stick it in one end, and you still got to stop it at the other end in its simplest form. Yeah. But just going off onto the academy stuff that you were speaking about, I just thought again, when we go back to the original topic of qualifications and real world experience, and I think that might be a problem as to why
it is
0.012% of people are not coming through the game, because and this is nothing about people in academies whatsoever, but sometimes I think, having been in a lot of academies, some of the wrong coaches are at the wrong levels. You know, you've got some that are working in the PDP that probably should be working in the foundation phase.
Yeah.
You've got some in the youth development that should be in the foundation. You've probably even got some in the foundation phase that could have been working in the youth development or even in the PDP phase. And you've also got those that probably shouldn't be in academy football anyway. You know, and again, I'm not picking out anybody or anywhere that
it's a tough business, isn't it?
You're going to see it all over the place.
Yeah.
That experience of being on the grass and putting the time in on the grass will make you a hell of a better coach than jumping from certificate to certificate to certificate to certificate just because you want a job. And I think that's the problem. But look, I could talk about this all day long.
What I brought that up for is that one thing I want to talk about is now the kids coming through. Now, I know we've done a little bit on social media and stuff like that about mental resilience. I wanted this to kind of flow in now to the scenario of, like, really, are we letting these young players down by not I'm not going to say coaching, but not teaching them that resilience that probably me and you had?
I think the problem is that coaches don't know how to coach it. I did my whole degree, pretty much. I did my main part of my degree on mental toughness and resilience. And the whole question on that was, can you coach mental toughness? Can you coach resilience? Or is it a natural thing? Is it through hardship? Is it through trial and error type things? Because I look at where we're from, I look at our lives as we grow up and where we were, no silver spoons and all that, and the hardships that we went through. Even I came through grassroots non-league football into pro football, and all the knockbacks that I could made me stronger and tougher and more resilient. And when I was doing, my research paper, I literally looked at all those things and I went, was that coached or was that through natural ability? I go, not natural ability.
Nature.
I go, it was definitely natural for me. But I wanted to look at if it was possible to coach it and how it could be coached. And I literally put a little program together that could be used in training. And it is possible to do it. I did a lot of research on this. It's definitely possible to do it. And I think that's where the problem lies. People don't know how. Coaches don't know how to do it. You have to put, even on a training pitch, as an example, you have to put them in some real tough situations where things are going to go wrong. One of the academies I was working at, I used to do it in training. I used to referee the game at the end, and I'd purposely make bad decisions to see how people reacted.
Yeah.
I had one kid, I almost drove him to tears. He gave the ball away, or he had a shot, and it was definitely a corner. Yeah. Everyone could see it was a corner. I go, goal kick. And I'm going like that. And I sat down with him at the end and I went, well, the purpose behind all of that was, I want to see if I can put you off your game. Because there's going to be players that are going to put you off your game. I used to join in training, even when I was still playing, even in non-league, I used to go up against some of the younger centre-halves. Or I'd be a centre-half and go up against some of the younger forwards. And I'd talk him out of the game. I'd be like, oh, you don't want it. Don't give it to his feet, you don't want it. Yeah. And then he'd go and show for the ball. I told you didn't want it. He's all over the place. He ain't going to score. He didn't shoot. He won't use his left foot. And I'd go through all of those sort of things and constantly get in people's heads. And I go, again, I'm putting you in a tough situation you don't want to be in. Because this is what's going to happen. Yeah. Experienced centre-half starts pinching me. I laugh. Experienced centre-half starts pinching somebody else who's not used to it. They want to turn around and react.
I think
and all of that plays into that sort of resilience side of it.
Do you know where? Because I think it can be taught. So
100% it can be.
So I think I was one of the luckiest kids in the world, and when I speak about my apprenticeship days were probably the best years of my life. I was lucky enough to, we had guys like Paul Hart, Mick Walker, who's one of the best coaches, bless him, just passed not long ago. People like Howard Wilkinson. I was in sort of like the schoolboy scenario then. Dick Bate we're talking about some people call it old school coaching, but you know what? I learned how to become a man very, very quickly in a man's environment because I was still a boy, and that's because I keep using the word contentious, but I look at today now.
Dictionary and find out an alternative.
Yeah, but because I know that my views might upset one or two people, but in my apprenticeship days, I painted the ground. I did kit, I cleaned boots. Wow, some of the things that I saw and did when I was an apprentice, even though I look back now and I think as a 16-year-old kid, I really shouldn't have seen that with grown men. So we had to pick slips up, men's with everything in it. Now, what I did when I went into coaching, we had the academies at Hucknall, Eastwood, and then obviously Mansfield, etc. I was really keen on our apprentices earning the right to become a professional, to be in the first team. So I stipulated that, and it was my head on the block, but I said that all the lads basically go back to the basics of sweeping and mopping the dressing rooms, make sure their environment was clean. And I can remember one day it was a young lad. It was his turn to mop and clean the dressing room. He kicked off, said he wasn't going to do it. Mum gave me a call and said, look, my son doesn't want to do that. So I said to her, no problem. Tell him to come in tomorrow. I'll release him from the football club. And she said, well, why is this? And I said, look, this isn't about me trying to create a good footballer. I think that young people of today. So I'll go off a tangent. I see so many young lads now walking around with a Louis Vuitton bag, and I don't still think they've earned the right to be there at that time. And we see more people falling away from the game. This isn't me having a go at young people. This is me of trying to give. I want more young players to succeed, because at a young age, I went down. I went to the old den at Millwall, and I was a young player. And you make a mistake down there, Chris. As you know, we both played at these places. Mummy and Daddy aren't going to come and save you. When that crowd, or when you're at Newcastle or wherever you're going to play, look, it might be a non-league environment. If that crowd see any weakness in you, mentally, physically, anything, you're going to get it. Yeah. You know they're going to get it. I mean, we went down to Millwall, and I think it was the week after is when they tried to come and attack the black players at Derby County. Yeah. It was, and I go, as much as we could look at anything, any kind of anything physically, anything mentally. The game is absolutely, it's the toughest I've ever seen it. But having that little bit of resilience, having that little bit of probably something we were probably born with, Chris. We're being brought up from where we are, and it was instilled into us probably a little bit earlier. I just think kids are missing this.
That's what I mean when I say, these clubs, these coaches don't know how to coach it. It's all right being resilient. Yeah. We're resilient. That's fine. It's not a problem. And that's come through hardships and tough times and all of those sorts of things. It's made us who we are. And you go, fantastic, great. But how do you recreate that in a football environment? Yeah. It's not something that is done overnight, which is what I tried to explain to a lot of people, especially when I did all my research and stuff. It's not an overnight thing. It might take a whole year to do it. But people want immediate results. Yeah. So we want more resilient players. Okay, there is no magic pill for this. You've got to do certain things in certain ways and create environments and make it tough and not easy.
Yeah.
I went to an academy. I had a little look around. Nice new academy, and they've got like golf carts. They're taking the kit to one of the far pitches.
Chris, they have staff now.
I said to academy manager at the time, I went, what's going off? Why aren't the players carrying the ball?
Stuff that wipes your arse.
It's just frightening.
Yeah.
They're all playing on like fantastic. They've got these great facilities, but
Is it making better footballers?
No.
Well,
it is on the facility in training,
yeah,
but not in match day.
And by the way,
they don't play on 3G on match day. They play on
I've got to
grass.
say as well, Chris, that there is limits. So for safeguarding, so I understand where this was all brought in, and I'm it's a fine line between a young person developing mental resilience and being abused. Now, I would never, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is earning. It's a tough business, as we know.
Yeah.
You've just answered the question.
You have to create a tough environment, but
was a
not all
brilliant
the
answer.
time. And it might be for 30 minutes. This is going to be tough. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be mean. So you're not going to get your own way. You know, some of the academies that I've been in, some of the kids they're nice kids. And I go, nice ain't going to make you a footballer. I don't mean that in a horrible way. I think nice kids are great.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have to get mean and nasty because when they're playing against the inner city kids, that's where they struggle.
The game is mean and nasty. And if anybody out there questions that, because everyone seems to think, I talk to people and they just think it's a fabulous business. Now look, when you're earning £1 million a month and you're driving a Lamborghini and you've just signed a contract that makes you that you don't have to work in for the rest of your life, that's probably the 1%. I get so many people, and don't get me wrong, I think I was really lucky. I think we're both really lucky. I'll probably go back and do it again for nothing, the whole of it again. But it's a really tough business, and you have to have a certain amount of resilience to survive in it. I'm not even going on to the management and the coaching side now because
that's the next.
Wow,
next week.
Yeah, but I just think I loved it that you just said straight away. Are we producing better players now? And I go, no. We're producing wingers that get one-on-one with fullbacks and then chop back and play inside. And I go, what are you doing? We're getting fullbacks that are great going forward but can't defend. We're getting centre-halves that are having the highest percentage rate with the ball. These are all Premiership stats, but can't head a football. And we're seeing more goals scored from long throws. Why? Because no one wants to head a football.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, we're on this roundabout, and we've said we spoke about last week about football's the fashion industry. It will go round and round because people have to find ways to win. I think there's a kind of wokeness about the game, Chris, at the minute, but we shouldn't be doing this because of little Johnny might develop Alzheimer's. Chris, I was going to say Mike then. Mike, I could have over the ball that much. One of the training sessions, I think I've told you this, one of the training sessions we got called into, we played Port Vale on one Saturday afternoon, and me and a boy called Rich Walker we were lucky enough to go and play in the first team. We got bullied one afternoon, and Mick took us out. We had no training ground. He took us on to Trent Embankment, and he had players around us, and all they did was blast the ball up in the air. And players are like that. Yeah. Players knew what was going to get. So they put it all. There was mud on the ball. There was dog shit. I'll be honest with you. There was everything. And Mick had us having the ball. I went to a point where I thought I was losing my sight. I was getting white lights in my eyes. And when people talk about Alzheimer's now, and I'll categorically say this, I go, the joy that football gave me, I wouldn't swap it again because somebody might say you might get Alzheimer's. Yeah. I would do everything again as I did, and I think there's a risk with everything. You look in boxing, you look in motor racing, you look at anything in life. Crossing the road now.
There's more. I did a lot of research over the years. Especially I did some boxing stuff years ago, and we was trying to get all that banned. But no, you're right. I wouldn't change a single thing. But on that note, it's been another interesting conversation.
I can't need to get off my soapbox now, don't I? We'll probably go down and have a quick pint somewhere.
But no, look, great for. It's been fantastic. Again, it went really, really quickly. I've just noticed the clock. We've run over time, but brilliant. Tune in next week.
Yeah, and to be fair, if anybody has got an opinion on it, get in touch. We'd love it. And look, we'd like you to come on. It'd be great to have a debate. It's you know, we listen to everybody's opinions, and everyone's entitled to an opinion. So
that's what makes football great, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
We've all
Best
got
game in the
opinions.
world. Best game in the world.
On that note, thanks for joining us. See you next week.